everybody, and welcome to Sonic Talk episode 590, recording today on Wednesday, it's the 18th of September. How did we suddenly get there? It's about this time of year I start talking about the weather, but I'm not going to. Well, I just did, I suppose, but I'm not going to go into any detail because this isn't a weather podcast. It's a podcast to do with music technology. That's synthesizers, software, music production, studio work, live production, all of those things surrounding that whole kind of ecosystem of that. And we've got a fulsome panel this week, which I'm sure you'll be delighted to know. I will save the least often on till last, just so that we know which order we're going in. But we will start on with Mr. Yoad Nevo, who's there in his studio. Yoad, of course, producer, remixer, mix engineer in his studio in. I'm just trying to figure out where that noise is coming from. In London. How are you, Yoad?
Yeah, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good, thank you very much. Just getting prepared for that. I should say now, there's no show next week because we're going to Tokyo for the Yamaha 45 synth years of synth celebrations. We're going to Hamamatsu, which I'm really excited about. But we'll get on to that in a bit. How's your week been? Have you been churning out banging mixes?
Yeah, kind of.
So modest.
I was in Tel Aviv at Waves last week. We did a show from there. I did a show from there last week. Came back on Sunday and straight to some mix work and stuff in here. Was trying to. Do you remember when you were here? I was telling you about the Waldorf Pulse.
Oh yeah.
You know that I have 4 of them, and you can kind of do a spillover thing, so you can have a polyphonic. You can play 4 voices on them, so it's quite fiddly. So we were trying to make it work. We managed to get 3 out of 4 working. So at the moment, I have 3 voices polyphony on the Pulse, which is great. So hopefully we'll get the 4th one going. And my dream is to get like 12 of them. Wow. Or something like that, or at least 8. But starting with 4, I think I told you, I think it's the best sounding synth ever. It's like, it's so good. It's so solid. It has something really solid about it, but it's so lush and rich. It has 3 oscillators, an amazing filter. I just love it, and I can't wait to be able to play it, polyphonically.
Well, I hope all of that time investment works out and pays you back in love and joy that you get from that. It did sound very good. The other thing that sounded really good at Yoad's studio was the Chroma Polaris. And we have some audio of that somewhere. We're still working on the edits. We're going to probably get that out when we get back from Japan. But more on that later. But thank you very much for joining us, Yoad. We'll also say hello to Mr. Dominic Hawken, who's there in his studio. Dominic, of course, he's an app developer at the moment as one of his main things, but also songwriter, producer, and I can see the Sherman filter back there. I didn't see that before.
Yes.
Nicely. So, but your Snuggle Sounds app is up and running.
It is, yes. I've been on for a bit. I've been up to quite a lot, but Snuggles, the key thing is Snuggle Sounds is up. So go search the App Store for Snuggle Sounds and give it a try because it's free, and I'd love to get your feedback. And that's a sleep and relaxation thing that I've been doing for about the last year has finally kind of come to fruition. So it's really exciting. It's doing quite well as well. And the main thing is that people are actually falling asleep when they listen to it, which is quite important, having spent the last year doing it, that it did actually work when it came out. So that's cool.
Bit of a problem for user reviews, I'd imagine.
Yeah,
people are commenting on the app, it's a victim of its own success.
Well, this is true. But no, it's been really good. It's been a bit of a ride, working out how to code through to getting the stuff onto the App Store, through to doing the whole thing. But it really works. So that side, yeah.
Yeah,
go
good
take a look.
shot.
And also, what have I been up to? I've done a little bit of film music. I've been trying to get into film music. So that's for some really small films and bits and pieces just to kind of get my hand in. And it is very, very hard work. And I've been playing with this, which I have to give back tomorrow, which I absolutely love.
I remember you fell in love with it, didn't you?
Yeah. And it has to go back tomorrow. But I've had it for a couple of months now. And I swapped it for my OB6. A DSi OB6 just for a couple of months to play around with it, and it's going back. But apart from that, really, it's just been a bit of coding, to be honest, and playing around with new stuff, looking at all the new Roland stuff coming out as well.
Yeah, well, we've got one more to talk about with that, and we've got Just the Guy, who hopefully will have some views on this because we didn't get round to it last time. Finally, our guest is Mr. Corey Banks, B-Boy Tech Report. Has been on the show a few times. We haven't seen him for ages. I guess he's been kind of busy doing his own thing. How are you, Corey? You well?
I'm good, man. Good to be here.
I know it's ghastly early in the morning where you are. So, you know, fair play for you making the effort. You're an early guy, though, right? We didn't.
Yeah, I'm up early. This is not too bad. It's 8 o'clock here, but you know, I typically, as a matter of fact, all of last week I was getting up at 4 in the morning. So what of it?
Well, so this is like lunchtime for you, pretty much. Yeah,
yeah, that's right.
So, Corey, you've been, I mean, no, you've been doing loads of stuff. I mean, probably since the last time we saw you, you were just starting the kind of modbap movement, which is the kind of modular and beats, I guess, and that's really become a real thing, hasn't it?
Yeah, man, it's catching on. I mean, the idea was to combine sort of add Eurorack and modular synthesis to hip hop and boom bap production, and I called it mod bap. I got a couple buddies who are doing the same thing, who've been doing some of the same thing. Then we had a couple people that are pretty popular started doing it. It's catching on, and so I've been doing some live shows, and a lot of cool stuff is coming from it.
Yeah, and I saw you've been doing like panel discussions and kind of flying the flag. So it looks like it's going places. So we're lucky to have you, I reckon.
This is like home. I'm happy to be here. I wish I could come on more often.
I know. I wish so too. I know, but it's hard to juggle everything in life, and yeah. But I get it. Well, I suppose maybe the first thing we should do is I'll jump to the second topic, because this is probably something that you might have a thought of. Obviously, there was a lot of Roland stuff out. In fact, last week's show was called "Now That's What I Call Roland," in homage to the "Now That's What I Call Greatest Hits," because it's basically all their stuff seems to be kind of coming back. You know, like the in the JXM, you get an XV engine and all a JP engine and all that. So let me play this a little bit of video that we've got for the MC 707. In fact, I could start David, from the beginning. Again. Why don't we just start that from the beginning? Because there was actually a demo song. Or maybe not. So, David, we're here again. Another Roland launch. This time we're at your place, your gaff, which is at Metropolis. That didn't go quite as I expected, but I'm sure everybody's seen a demo of it. In fact, there was as well as the 707, there's the 101, and there was a really, really good demo I saw on Facebook, and I'm trying to remember the name of the guy who did it. He's a modular guy, and it was just absolutely rocking. So, you know, new Roland stuff. I mean, as you can see, you're kind of synth guy, but I mean, typically kind of the mod bap and the hip hop guys are using MPCs, and this is a kind of nod to that kind of concept. It's not very paddy, but it's the idea of a standalone thing, sequencer, sampler, whatever. How are you excited about this? Is this something that you kind of think?
Yeah, maybe? I'm excited about that and the MC101, because I mean, it's basically the same thing, just, you know, a larger one and a small one. I think it's really dope. I think it's a good idea. We've all been, like, all the beat maker friends that I have, we've all been wanting them to do this again. Didn't know what form it would come in. You know, there was the MV8800. Everybody was thinking it was going to be a 9000 at some point, and that got. I've heard that
I remember.
For years ago, but it got shelved. And so to see a 707 and a 101 come out, I think it's brilliant. And you know what? I think it makes more sense because there's a whole movement behind the SP404, right? And I think what this does is kind of play to those guys. You're going to have SP404 guys going crazy for the MC101 and maybe looking at the 707 as an upgrade. So yeah, I think it was brilliant. I'm excited to see it. As a matter of fact, one of the Roland guys and I are supposed to get together soon, so he can kind of give me a run through and show me, you know, what it does and all of that stuff. But yeah, I'm excited for it.
I'm trying to remember the name of the guy who did the demo. I think is it Basek or Baychek? He does loads of modular stuff.
Oh, Basek. Yeah.
Basek. He did a really good demo of it, and it was like, yeah, that I commented on it. I said, yeah, that's how to do it. It was just him with the MC101 and this absolutely banging tune with loads of sections to it and movement, and it was like all out of this box that's kind of this big. And I think that one, like you said, I think that one might be the surprise hit of the batch of Roland's products coming out. I don't know yet, but that could be kind of interesting.
I think you're right. I think it's going to be because honestly, when I saw the 707, then I saw the 101, I was like, oh, well, that looks interesting. And what's happening is it's pretty much the same thing, but with half the tracks.
Yeah.
And I was noticing that the 707 has inputs for sample and audio, but the 101 doesn't. And so I stopped at Knob kind of asked dude, like, so you can't sample on the 101? He said, yeah, you can, but you have to do it through audio over USB. So, you know, if it's connected to a computer, then you can sample in via audio over USB. So, I mean, I think that 101 is going to be huge.
Interesting. I'll come to you, Dom,
Yeah.
because you didn't get a chance to kind of put in on any of the other Roland stuff. I mean, you may have some thoughts of that, but because one of the things they said was users have been asking us to resurrect the Groovebox, and we were all sort of going, have they? But hearing from Corey and what his experience is, then maybe that's the case. Maybe we're just not hanging out with the right people.
I think there's been a lot of chat about trying to get a new, like a core Groovebox going and stuff like that, because there's definitely a gap in the market. I wasn't so sure people have been asking Roland for it, but the Korg stuff, I think people are after. I mean, I love it. I'm a real Roland fanboy, and obviously I've seen quite a few people going, oh, they've released this Jupiter thing and it's not like a Jupiter 8 and it's blah blah blah, and it's just like, it's all brilliant. It's absolutely fab, the stuff that they're doing, and the Groovebox is good. Exactly. For what was just said, really, with that SP404. I mean, I've been trying to pick up an SP404 off of eBay now, and the prices have gone bonkers just because they sound so kind of squelchy and the filters sound so warm. I would say that for me, the Deluge is the Groovebox of choice.
Oh yeah,
really.
yeah, no, absolutely.
And it's more expensive, but not that much more. So I've been sort of saying to people, check it out as well, because it does pack a lot more punch. I don't want to be an advert for Deluge, because the Roland boxes are really cool, and I'm not so sure these days how many people want to sample directly in a mic and in the back. So the USB thing that was just mentioned by Corey is is a really important thing, I think. And no, they're great. They're great. What I would have said with the other Jupiter stuff that had I been on last week is that Roland have always been about, from the very, very early days, mimicking real instruments. Those guys were absolutely, all those Jupiters, the JX3Ps, that everything was about trying to make a real piano sound or a real sound. That's why things like the JX3P have got preset names on them called strings and piano and stuff. And everything else about, hardcore synth sounds and really thick, wonderful.
It's like an accident.
It's a total accident. Yeah. The 303 and the 606 were meant to be your little rhythm accompaniment when you're practicing guitar, and it is an accident. And they kind of didn't get off that train until very recently, when they realized that there was a market for the kind of legacy kits. So they've addressed that with things like the boutiques and so forth. And that's a whole other story. But yeah, I think it was brilliant. We actually had some of the Roland guys come and use the studio that I was running in Chiswick for a while to record the obscure African kind of percussion instruments and stuff for one of those cards. I think it was like a 1080 or a 2080 card. And I've never seen such a weird looking bunch of, I was going to say weird looking bunch of people arrive. They were quite weird looking, but the instruments were quite weird looking as well. And the meticulous kind of attention to detail about recording these things, we're talking many years ago, was crazy. And it was like they were absolutely hooked on trying to mimic real instruments with synths, when we now realize clearly you kind of don't have to do that anymore.
That's so funny. That's so funny. So their whole thing is built on the fact that they were going for something else.
Completely.
Yoad, I know you were sort of saying that the AXM was something that you might actually go for. Groovebox stuff, I guess with a studio that you've got, you're probably not necessarily something you're going to require all that often, right?
Yeah, you say that, but when the MPC Live came out, I went out and bought it. Didn't go out physically because I got it delivered, like as things happen today. Yeah, exactly. But and I have the machine, but even with the machine, I kind of use the software and not the plugin, and rather than the hands-on thing, because I think I've said it before, I'm quite happy with the mouse and small keyboard that I have in the desk. I'm quite happy and content with that, and just the thought of starting something on one platform and then having to port it to another platform, i.e. the desktop
for
and all that,
or whatever. Yeah.
So I just tend to do everything in the box, at least when writing or making beats. So it looks great, though. It looks kind of, I like the new look, the new kind of push NI and now Roland look with a it's.
I wonder if it's going to be
kind of tempting.
I know. I think it's probably going to work maybe the other way around. So once you've done all that stuff in the box and you want to take it out, you could then put it onto that and just have maybe something tiny that you can run the show off. That seems to be the direction that maybe it'd be more exciting for it, perhaps.
Yeah, but I mean, but I only represent myself, and I'm sure it's great. It's a great machine for. I shouldn't say machine. It's a great device for a lot of people. And with regards to the 101, I'm just wondering, because my phone is able to connect, I'm able to connect the Focusrite Scarlett thing straight to the phone without going through a computer. So I'm just wondering whether it's possible to connect a USB from a sound card straight into the 101 as a front, so you can sample stuff.
Oh, I see, like host. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know if it's got a host.
So then you can skip the whole laptop situation at all, and
yeah,
just,
I don't know. That's a good question to ask.
Be completely mobile.
Good question to ask.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, no, that would be a fascinating one. Maybe that's the case. Okay, well, I think it's going to be these things. I think they're heading to the shops now, and I think it's going to be. The MC101 was around, it was some really bizarre price they quoted, like £429. So I don't know what, and I think at the moment we're pretty much parity dollars and pounds. So we're probably going to, it feels, you know, it's for the size of it, it looks expensive, but I think the utility of it is probably going to be something that a lot of people kind of go, you know, that's cool. I can almost put it in my pocket. You know, it's almost that size. So yeah, good luck to them. Okay, right. We've got a word from our friends over at Softube, and then I will be back with some more topics. So this is Monument. This is the bass instrument. Actually, I reviewed it, and when it comes to bass, it has actually got a lot of bass. There's no denying it. Super high quality bass synths with 100 different stereo waveforms from lots of different boutique synths, top-notch synth architecture, lots of presets. It really does feel like master ready. When you hit it, you got all these effects that kind of it slots right in there without necessarily having to do anything else. Modern bass, mix ready, Monument bass. If you head over to Softube, you can download it right from there, buy it straight from the site. I don't have the exact pricing on me, but it's certainly got a real vibe to it. So just head over to Softube and you get some more information. There's a bunch of demos on there. Also, you can check out our review as well, which I got some nice sounds out of it. And so thank you very much for them for supporting the podcast. Right, let's see. What are we going to do next? Gosh, there's so much to do. I think I might do this.
MIDI interface.
The MIDI interface. You want to do that one next? All right. Have I got that? Yes, we have. I think because Jim, who was at Knobcon for us, recorded a video with the guys. They did Noodler as well, and this MIDI interface is a really cool idea. I should have snipped these off, but I want to say thanks to our sponsors for the Knobcon. Here we go.
Conductive Labs, and we just did a Kickstarter to launch our MRCC, the MIDI Router Control Center. This is a prototype of the original of what we're doing. We've got 11 inputs and 17 outputs that are routable. Let's talk a minute about the inputs. So we've got input jacks, the 3.5 millimeter jacks for both flavors, as well as the 5-pin. So 6 of those in total. We have 4 USB host control, so that we can use equipment that's typically targeted at DAWs, but this will be great for DAWless jamming. And then a standard USB port for back up to a computer or an iPad if you want to use SoftSynth. On the output side, we have 12 outputs here. Again, we support both flavors of the 3.5 jacks. And of course, MIDI is MIDI over USB is bidirectional, so these are also outputs.
Okay, that was what I was going to. So those are.
This is a Kickstarter which is doing really, really well. It seems like a no-brainer and a really good idea, because essentially most MIDI interfaces, it bridges all of the kind of, it doesn't have to have a computer involved. We could just plug a controller in, route it to a load of outputs, route it to the computer, route it to the, so it just looks like a really cool idea. And Yoad, I'm going to come to you because I know you've got a ridiculously complicated and massive MIDI setup. I mean, your interfaces typically would have 8 ports in and out, wouldn't they? So this would give you a bit more than that. So is this something that you find quite thrilling? The idea of
Absolutely. I use 5 MIDI timepiece, Mark of the Unicorn MIDI timepiece 2 or AV or whatever. They're very old devices, so I use 5 of them, 8 ports each. So I have 40 ports in and 40 ports out, which are all. I could use more if I had them, so I need to merge some stuff because it's not even enough. So for me, I've been using them for years and years. And they're great because you can do a lot of stuff. You can do all the routing, you can do filtering, so you can mute some events, nodes, controllers, sysex, and stuff like that. You can convert some events to other events, like, you know, transform or transpose and things like that. Not transpose as such, but you can do a lot of stuff without the computer, just on the box. And I'm so quick on it by now, dialing in you know, the through the menus and stuff. I love that. These are really old machines, and you can network them together to create. Basically, so I've been looking for something. This is really old technology. The timing on it is not great. So I was really looking for something like that, and I think that this is going to be great. I saw this little not review, this little item, but I wanted to know more about those systems, because if it can do stuff like filtering and some manipulation on the MIDI data, and it fits in a rack.
Oh, hold on! I think I can answer that question. It says front panel UI, routing and config port, clocks, notes, channel, and filters. And look, there's an optional 7 remote ports over Ethernet cable, so you can expand.
Yeah, but they mirror the existing 7 ports, so it's not additional ones like you used to have on the Atari. If you remember, you had the uniter, and then you had the extra 4 ports on the printer port. But it looks to me like a really, really great system, and I would love to get in touch with the guys who make it. And
well, I mean, because not many, but there are. I think you can probably buy big multi-port MIDI interfaces, but I'm struggling to think of who actually makes them. I guess Motu probably still make a couple, but AVB ones.
They do.
But yeah, there's not much choice.
They're really expensive. Yeah, they're really expensive, and they usually come at 8 ports, and you know, and I'm not even sure you can network them. You can chain them like you can with a MIDI timepiece too. So this looks very promising. It looks cool. It looks neat. I like the fact that it's in 2U and all the connectors are in the front.
And it looks like it's very easy. Yeah, it looks like it's pretty easy to route and stuff. Corey, is MIDI feature large in your life still, or are you kind of more?
It is.
Yeah.
I use a little bit of every kind of connection. I mean, this part of the studio that you can see behind me, obviously, is my synths. And so then that goes over like a MIDI USB comes around to this room. Then my Groovebox and Eurorack stuff is on this side of me on the table, on the desk here. Then I have whatever the main keyboard is I'm using in front of me from time to time, or most of the times. But this MIDI router I think is going to solve a lot of problems for me. One is because of that little breakout box with the extra MIDI on there. So I can actually run that with one Cat5, Cat6 cable, run it around to that side, and just run that one cable back over here and have that, you know, right in front of me, in front of the computer. It just makes, and routing is so easy. You know, you do in, out, there's a click and it's routed. Then there's all these little things that feedback that you get that's so good. Like sometimes you may have a clock where you got all this MIDI routing going. You may have some rogue clock coming from somewhere. Well, on that screen, it'll show you with a red blinking arrow, like where the clock is coming from, which device. So it makes it easy. So that kind of feedback, that easy routing, and the fact that I can have the other side of my room connected with one wire is brilliant. And I don't know that there's anything out there with that kind of flexibility, certainly not at that price point.
Yeah, I think it's going to be about $349, or at least on the Kickstarter. It's all the cheap ones are gone. The reward no longer available. There's one. There was a $299. The $249's gone. The $199's gone. $349. So I don't know what the final price is going to be in about February, I think. Dominic, it's something that you can't. I'm guessing there's quite a lot of keyboards behind you tucked away.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if there's anything modern. There's a load of people in the chat saying they were using old stuff. I've got 2 Uniter 8, so it's the same. Each one has 8 in and 8 outs. 2 of them, so I need 16 in and 16 outs. I can just about get away with it. And what I was going to say was, I mean, everything's coming with USB MIDI and stuff as well, but you just run out of USB ports. To dedicate a USB port just to a MIDI, it's crazy, because they're so low bandwidth, those things. So it's perfect. But these work, but they're kind of a little bit old and clunky. And you get these, I don't know what it's like for Yoav, but you get these classic moments where just with two, you've got them all mapped out to each of the keyboard, and then you boot the computer and they've swapped. So that A is now B and B is now A, and all the keyboards are mapped wrongly, you know. And then the next day you'll boot the computer up and they'll swap back into a different board and stuff. And but it's really, really good that kind of stuff comes out. And it would be, I'm just about getting away with it at the moment here, but they are so old, and you can't do kind of clever stuff like saying, like MIDI clock can kind of appear on one port or all of the ports of the 8. You can't say shove MIDI clock down 1, 3, and 5, and you can't, you know, do any filtering apart from stuff that's coming out of Ableton or Logic or whatever. So yeah, I wish I'd thought of this one. It's just such a brilliant idea. And again, with I keep mentioning things like the Teensy and stuff. You can code this stuff up as well. So the technology is there to make this stuff really, really cool and cost effective now, which is what they've done.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the thing with this is I can see maybe one half that side that just allows me to plug a host in and a MIDI out, so I can connect for reviewing stuff over there. It's just a really quick way. I mean, people in the chat room are saying, "Oh God, stick a bit of CV and gate on it, and you're really cooking." Yeah. And maybe they've got plans for that. But this looks like, this is MRCC by Conductive Labs. If anyone's wondering what we're talking about, it just seems like one of those. Yeah, I mean, the other guys that were doing it are the I'm trying to remember the one that Gaz is always talking about, which I can't put to my hand at the moment. But there are massive multi-port MIDI systems just are quite rare. But the fact that this will distribute a bit of USB action as well, that makes a lot of sense. I know that's the that's the special sauce, isn't it? Because people have been trying to do that for a long time. I know that was the thing, certainly with Electron and their God, I can't remember the editing system where everything becomes as an aggregate device. That's doing audio as well. It takes quite a lot of work, so good for them. Yeah, I think this is going to be a winner, and I could see it being really useful in a smaller version, I guess, because with the host mode you could plug in some of those expert sleepers modules, which are just sort of straight, and then you get CV out, and you're there, you're off, you know. And I imagine in your world that's going to be heaven, or something approaching it.
It is, and it's well overdue to have something this convenient and this configurable, and with all of these different features on it. Because I mean, the market has exploded with desktop synths, and I mean, we have more synths and groove boxes now than I think we ever had on the market at one point. Right,
five in the last 2 weeks. Just
exactly. So, and then when you look around, you see people with like a million little things on their desks, and just imagine all the USB and all the stuff that they're plugging. I go through that a lot. I'm using CV, and then I'm like, I gotta go grab the 5-pin. Then this one USB, because I'm unplugging, do it. It'd be nice to just have that stuff routed into one place, and it just makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Anyway, well, so do check that out. And the Kickstarter, I think the Kickstarter's got, let's have a look. What's it got? 33 days to go. It's already oversubscribed. So I don't think they're going to have any trouble. It will only be funded October the 22nd. So 33 days to go. I think that's going to be an easy peasy one. Right. Let's just have a little mention from our friends over at iZotope, and then we'll get cracking on some more topics.
Presenting Neutron 3, the modern way to mix. Bring your workflow into the 21st century with 8 modern mixing tools, all at your fingertips in one mothership plugin. Starting a mix can take a while, but with the all-new Mix Assistant, Neutron can listen to your audio and quickly suggest a custom starting point for an individual track, or set levels for your entire mix. Shape sounds like never before with the new Sculptor module. Match audio to a target sonic profile and instantly sculpt it to sound more like itself or like something else completely. Reach out and touch your audio with Neutron's immersive controls and visualizations. Neutron 3 comes equipped with Visual Mixer, a tool to help you effortlessly manipulate the landscape of your mix. Neutron 3, the modern way to mix.
And you can always check that out over at iZotope.com. You get 10-day free demos of all of that stuff. And, of course, we had a competition last week. And let's do the details of this week's competition. We're giving away, or iZotope are very kindly giving away, a copy of Neutron 3 Advanced. And I'm looking for the hashtag Smarter Mixing, which is one word, and the hashtag Neutron 3, to @SonicState and @iZotope Inc. That's a Twitter competition, so the hashtag Smarter Mixing, one word, and the hashtag Neutron3 to @SonicState and @iZotope Inc. And there is no show next week, but we'll be picking a winner for the week after. And we do have a winner from last week's show. I'm very pleased to say it's actually a chap called Neil Barbu, who I've seen his name show up endlessly in the results, but the supercomputer never picks him. The random number never gets to him, but it's actually got him. So congratulations, Neil Barbu, who is at Neilboards, the Twitter handle. We asked you to tweet Repair Mixmaster Neutron 3, and he says yes, please. Well, your wish is my command. If you want to get in touch, we'll have the kind people over at iZotope send you a copy. Right, where am I? I'm looking for this. Here we go. Yeah, this is the Yamaha 45 years of synthesis. Now, this is, or 45 years of making synthesis. I think it was 1974 SY1 was first built, and that was their first synth. And I think it might have even had sort of like an aftertouch capability built in, if I remember correctly. This is going to be held over the September 22nd and 23rd, which is this weekend coming, in Hamamatsu, which is where their headquarters is. And I'm very excited to announce we're going. In fact, after this show, I'm jumping on a train to go to Heathrow, and we're flying out tomorrow morning, and we go straight to Hamamatsu, and we're going to be filming some interviews with some of the Yamaha engineers. We're going to be doing a tour of their museum. We're going to be looking at some of the classic synths they've got there, talking to the artists. So we're going to get a whole bunch of content. So follow us on Facebook and Instagram. I'm sure we'll be posting various stages and dilapidation of our jet lag as we approach. But 45 years of making synthesizers. There's a 50 years with Samsung this week. Samsung have been in business for 50 years. So this is a big achievement. I'm just wondering, okay, what is your favourite Yamaha synthesizer? And I'm disqualifying the CS80 because everybody always says that, okay? We'll take that as a given. So, out of all the stuff they've made over that time, is there something that you feel kind of like an affinity with? And I'm going to come to, let me see, who shall I come to first? My fastest finger first. I'm going to Yoad first, because I know you've got a CS40 sitting outside waiting for repair in your hallway. 70.
Yeah, CS70.
70.
Actually, yeah. I love the DX7. I just love it. I used to use it back in the day. It's a nightmare to program it on,
on the front panel, yeah,
on board, yeah. But I used to have a program for the Atari DX Droid, which allowed you to do it via SysX. Really love it. I mean, it's quite complicated, and you have to really think and plan ahead what you're going to do. It's not just about turning knobs and seeing what happens. You have to know what you're doing. And I learned so much about FM synthesis and about synthesis in general, because I was very young when I was playing with it. Love it. I can't say. I used to have a few other Yamaha synths, TG77, which is again 4 engines of DX7 plus PCM. A really, really powerful machine, but I haven't been using it, so I sold it. TJ33, TJ55. I had a few over the years, but actually I do have the AN1X. Which is
that's supposed to be a bit of a classic.
That's a really, really great synth. It has the sounds on it are amazing. The sounds, the presets you can get are amazing. The actual sonic quality is not, it's not HD. So the converters, the D2As or something about it sounds a bit dull, but it's quite big for actually it kind of compensates for the fact that it's digital, because it sounds warm and it sounds big. It's not so sparkly, but it's a really, really great synth. Yeah, but still, you can't argue with the DX7. DX7 is, and I have to mention the GS1. The GS1 was a beast.
Is that the
and
wooden one?
And I had the opportunity. It's the wooden one. It's FM. I don't actually know what the engine. Maybe it's like the DX5 or something with two DX7 engines.
I can't remember the
something like that.
How those little strips that you fed into it to program voices, like magnetic strips.
Yeah, it was. I had the opportunity to record it once. It's a beautiful machine. It costs like a house or something, but that was something that I would really love to have. There's also the TX. The kind of rack version of the DX7.
TX81Z or to 816, I think that was.
So you get 8 DX7s with balanced output, so you can hear the noise of the converters, the 8-bit converters. You can hear it
in full glory,
more louder. Yeah.
Excellent.
So that's but you can get the.
Yeah.
DX7.
Okay. That interesting. All right. I'm glad to hear that we've got a strong vote for the DX. Okay. I'm going to go to you, Corey. I'm guessing. I don't know. Is Yamaha figure strongly in the kind of world of hip hop in terms of sounds, in classic sounds? I suppose some of those bass sounds, the 4-op bass sounds, would have been real classics like Lately Bass and I can't remember. There's another one as well, which Solid Bass, of course.
Yeah, Yamaha's made some pretty formidable workstations for hip hop and R&B, so those things live in infamy. But one of the things, obviously, you disqualified me right at the beginning. The first thing I was going to mention, but you're right, that's the juggernaut of the conversation, right? But the one thing that came to mind was I had a buddy who used to always bug me. Well, not bug me, but he had a hankering for the Yamaha RS7000. And was
that the sampler?
Yeah, it was a sampler sequencer. I think it had a synth in it, and for some reason had this buddy of mine really was crazy about this thing. He's in Chicago. I'm in California. And so he would always be checking Craigslist in California because apparently there's better goodies on Craigslist in California than there is in Chicago. So I found him one and I brought that thing home. And I always wondered, like, what is he so crazy about? But when I got it home, I realized, I was like, actually, the thing is pretty cool. I think it was ahead of its time, but it is a little complicated to program and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I've known some people to do some pretty dope beats on it. It does some way advanced, at least at that time, some way advanced like sampling, mangling, and all kinds of different stuff that a lot of software might do today. But yeah, I think that's one of those sleepers that a few people know about. That I think is pretty
okay. That's an interesting concept. Okay, well, over to you then, Dominic. Your choice for the Yamaha hit.
You wiped me out. I would have said obviously the DX7 is an obvious one. I mean, it's hard to realize now what a game changer that synth was, if only for the fact that it meant live keyboard players didn't have to carry a Rhodes around or push a Rhodes around. It's the first time I've seen like back in those days where you'd have a Rhodes piano player and maybe a synth on top of Minimoog or something. Those Rhodes pianos are really, really heavy, and the Yamaha CS pianos. And the DX7 was the first time they could go out with two flight cases of little synths. But outside of that, it's an odd one, but I love the Master keyboard. It's a 88 keyboard, KX88. I always wanted one, and I've seen a few come up for sale recently, and unfortunately the membrane switches that you had on the DX7s and stuff are beginning to suffer a bit now in their old age. But the feel on that keyboard doesn't make a sound, but it was the first proper, really pro MIDI keyboard controller.
Poly Aftertouch, I believe it had as well, didn't it?
Yeah, and the feel is brilliant. The feel is amazing. So that's one. And honestly, if you could repair those membrane switches, maybe you can. I mean, they crack basically. The switches don't break, but the covering of the surface cracks. Yeah. Nothing you can't fix without no more nails and a hammer in my house. I've also got a TX802 in the rack.
Oh yeah, I remember that was
it's off
that was one of the most horrible things to program ever. Yeah, I remember
it's
that.
Really horrible, but it's got those classic bass sounds, and there's a classic kind of clavichord sound which it just cuts through everything. If you want something kind of nasty,
that was multi-timbral, wasn't it? Was it an 8-part multi-timbral device?
It's 8-part multi-timbral. You don't get many notes on the 8 parts, but it's kind of space to sound ratio is really, really cool. It sits there and does stuff. And I've just bought a DX21 secondhand off of a good friend.
Oh, I used to have one of them.
That I'm going to use to play into one of those talk boxes, you know, where you've got the tube in your mouth.
Are you getting a breath controller? A guaranteed, unused, still boxed, unwrapped breath controller?
No, this is one of those proper Rocktron Banshee things that guitarists use, but I'm going to stick my new DX21 through it. But yeah,
the dribble pipe.
That's
the dribble pipe.
The
that's
dribble pipe. Yeah,
Dribble pipe.
I'll do a
Dribble pipe guaranteed unused.
I'm good. Okay, there we've got the title there. Unused dribble pipe, I think, is
so that'll be me. I'll report back next time I'm on as to how many diseases I've managed to catch in the meantime.
Nice. Well, I've got something, because we're going to go next week or this week rather, Saturday. I think we're going to go and see, because Yamaha they've got it's called the Innovation Road, which is like a tour through all of their stuff, and they've got a GX1. Which is, for those of you who don't know, was the sort of it's an organ format, but it's not really an organ. Three 8-voice polyphonic synths and a top keyboard. This is it. Anyway, this is great. This video I found. This is a guy called Hidemi Saito, who was basically pioneering the use of these Yamaha GX1s in the home organ kind of vibe. So this is him playing. It's just, I can't believe that you would be using a 60 grand organ to play this kind of thing. But I suppose for its time, it's very advanced. But what I was going to say is the GX1, I've been doing some facts and figures on it, because I'm hoping they're going to let me play it. But the main console is 300 kilograms. The foot, the bass pedals is another 90 kilograms, and then the two speakers, I think there's two speakers, big speaker stacks, is yet another. I think it's coming like 400 kilograms. So the combined weight of a full GS1 system is GX1 system is 952 kilograms, and ABBA used to tour with one. That's just, isn't that an awesome fact, folks? I mean, that's just one of my favourite facts and figures. I mean, I can't imagine anybody with any sanity. They were 60 grand new, so that works out as something like 300,000 quid. In today's prices is what they so I'm hoping we're going to have a talk with one of those and hopefully get to play it a bit, and I might even do a 5 minutes with it if I'm left alone with it for 5 minutes, but yeah, so that's my choice, just because it's so outrageous. And the more I've been looking at the thing is, more I've been looking at the Yamaha stuff. You know, they made the GX1, they made the GS1, they made the VL1 and the VP1. Massive. I mean, they reckon it cost £2 million to develop the GX1. Okay. And they sold somewhere between 70 and 100, so they would have recouped and made some money. But the VL1 and the VP1 they didn't sell. I think they sold 2. So this huge amount of R&D gone into these technologies that just didn't connect with the buying public, and you know, that's something we're just never going to see today anymore, you know, that sort of thing. And it kind of maybe gives you an insight into why Roland and Yamaha, these companies, when they have a technology that they've gone with, they're milking it, because they got burned so badly in the 80s by investing all this money in stuff. And it was like, you know, so they had, you know, they had FM and they had AWM, 2 really big hits, and then they had the physical modelling, which was a massive flop, I suppose, commercially, but must have cost a fortune. So I guess, you know, 2 out of 3. So yeah, and interesting. So we'll be seeing that and a VP1. VP1, there were only 2, and they've got one of them. So I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be exciting. So that'll be, and there's a live stream. There's content we'll be put in later, but the live streams are going to be, you know, they're on Facebook, so there'll be a link on. I'll put a link in the show notes and whatnot. Okay. Gosh, what else have we got? There is, we've done Conductive Loud, we've done the, I might have to be a quick, because I've got to go and get off the, I've got to go and get on a train in a minute. Oh, not in a minute, but so would anyone like to choose? Corey, you've not been on for long. Is there a topic remaining that you would like to discuss, particularly more than any of the others, or have we covered everything that you have any interest in? You could be brutal.
I don't know, the VCV rack for iOS, I think, is dope.
I think that's a really good point. Yeah, here we go. This is the Peter Kern, once again, got a great story. This is VCV Rack, as we know, has just hit version 1, and it's added a whole bunch of things. And in the meantime, there's a guy called, what's his name? He's called Vitaly Pronkin, and he's an app developer. He's actually just started working for InMusic, like in July. So I don't know whether this thing will be shelved or whether it's going to keep going. But he's been porting the VCV rack kind of concept to run on iPad, because on the modern stuff, it's going to be really powerful. And I think this interface will really work well. And if you can get the store working so people can buy, I think this could be an absolutely brilliant concept. So if VCV rack, for those who don't know it, it's a free open source, or not open, I think it's open source, or is it one of those where you could basically, you download the basic package, you get a whole bunch of stuff for free, and then you enhance it with modules. But you don't need to spend any money to get a really powerful modular emulator system which will interface with multiple audio interfaces. It's a brilliant piece of software. So having this on an iPad could well be an absolute winner. Over to you, Corey. Do you not agree?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And especially too, so what I've noticed in, like, I went to East LA and was teaching kids about synthesis with some buddies, and we were doing that. And one of the things that they come up to after is like, you know, cost of entry, how do we get involved? And that's one of the things we recommend, VCV Rack. And now that it's on iOS, I mean, that opens up a whole load of possibilities. And the fact that he's kind of building this whole ecosystem around it where other developers are contributing. And I mean, I think it's pretty dope. Like, you know, just a couple years ago, there was no way you could have that kind of entry point. And it sounds good, and it really gives you sort of the feeling, obviously without the physical plugin, but you're patching. You're still patching. Yeah. And so there's a lot of learning that can come from it. There's a lot of, you know, actual real productions and sketches and everything that can come from it. So
I would totally agree with that. It reminds me a little bit of the experience that we had, Yoad, where we've met in non-real life, like we are now, many, many, many times. But when we met and finally, there was a familiarity that was always there. And I think VCV Rack can provide the same thing. So you kind of meet virtually all your modules, and then you go and buy some, and then suddenly you've got a familiarity with it. I know this is the sort of thing that gives programmers a good name, I would say, wouldn't you say? Yeah, this just seems like it's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah, it looks pretty neat. I'm struggling with the use of modular synth. I have a small system here behind me, and I haven't been using it because it's, I don't know. It's just
you can't run it from the center section of your console. That's what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. No, it's just that I work kind of quickly and I get things done and I have ideas and I just use whatever I have ready, and I have quite a lot of other stuff which are ready, and I've programmed some presets for them and some for other plugins as well, and I tend to just use plugins. I haven't really incorporated the iPad into my workflow as such. So I'm not sure. I'm toying with the idea of there's like one, I don't know, there's a panel that I can pull out from the desk, and I was toying with the idea of maybe having it in the desk, and that's something that will probably be cool, because I hate having loads of wires and USB plugs and chargers and things like that. So if it's something that is kind of in the desk, maybe I'll use it. Yeah,
I can see that working really well for you, actually, because if you just basically have VCV Rack or something equivalent, I mean, Softube makes something as well, connected to a dedicated audio interface that is DC coupled, then essentially all you got to do is patch and you're off. You know, that would work really well.
Yeah, possibly, but you know, but I have the Matrix, the Arturia Matrix Brute that I haven't been using much at all. You know, I have so much stuff to go through before I get to this.
Yeah.
But
it's last on the list. I get that.
I'm sure it's great. Yeah.
Well, Dominic, as a recently christened iPad developer, I suppose this is a very pertinent topic.
Sorry for Yoad. I feel so sorry for Yoad having to go through all that kit. There's just that big piles of stuff he has to go through before he can buy some more.
It's guilt.
It's so terrible.
Buyer's remorse.
When we start, this is a fabulous thing. A couple of things that just come to mind. You mentioned it before, that ES8. I'll just switch my camera angle because I've got this modular thing here. That ES8 there is a USB interface that does audio and CV. So you can put your modular kit anywhere, and then one USB cable goes into the computer for Ableton or Logic, and then you can squirt signals in and out. So all your patching goes on over here. So you can send sounds into it. And I think I've said before, I use mine more as an effects rack than as a synth. So you can squirt stuff out of the computer, a vocal or a synth sound, push it through everywhere. And it also means you only really need to buy the external kit that can't be replicated perfectly internally. So, for example, there are some delays and some effects that you can add, which could really be replicated on board by a plugin very simply. But there might be an oscillator that you can buy, which is hard because it's an old analog thing to do. So you're saving money on that whole kind of
envelopes, LFOs, that sort of thing. It can all be done in software. Yeah,
exactly. But something that you're missing is a tactile knobs on the front, and sonically, if there's something in there that you can't really get your hands on with a plugin. But if you can take VCV Rack in an iPad or anywhere really and squirt it into there, then the world really is your oyster. And I think from what Corey was saying, like the educational side of it doesn't have to be for kids, but for everyone, knowing how to plug stuff in and what an oscillator does into an envelope, into a thing, and knowing what happens when you just plug things in the wrong way. And the advantage of an iPad is you can't blow anything up. And one of the great things about modular is generally you can plug anything into anything, but you have to be a bit careful that an output generally always goes to an input. And it is quite easy to make a few mistakes that can be a little bit costly. But within the iPad, then you're absolutely sorted. So if you can get that hybrid working out of it, then you're going to be sitting on the train doing a new patch and then plug it in really, really simply. There are a couple of hurdles. I know there's the licensing, the open source licensing is not particularly compatible with the App Store. But
maybe he's going to have to make it free. I mean, maybe he'll just make it free. I don't know.
I don't even know if it's that simple. It's the reuse of the code. But I mean, open source is brilliant. But let's just see where it gets to. It sounds a little preemptive. It's a brilliant idea, but it really is one bloke who's compiled it under Xcode, I think, and it almost works. So I really hope it gets the push to.
Well, I have the page here. Hold on, I have the page here. He says, now the work is done and Mirac will soon be available in the App Store. I mean, the thing is, he is also a bona fide developer. So I would imagine he's been talking to the VCV Rack people because he's not just some guy. He seems to be a music developer. So maybe,
I must have been a bit behind. I didn't see that one. It was back at the stage where it was kind of early days. So that's outstanding if you can get it out.
Yeah, well, this was posted September 13th. So maybe we're nearly there. Awesome. Well, guys, I'm gonna wrap things up a little bit because I've got to go home, finish my packing, get in a cab, get to the station, and do all of those things. Remember, there won't be any show next week because I'll be on a plane somewhere over Europe, or I don't know what time. Yeah, and I'll be landing I'll be 2 hours outside of Heathrow this step, so I won't be doing a podcast is the short answer to that. But I want to say thank you very much to our sponsors. Don't forget, check out the Softube Monument Bass, softtube.com, and also iZotope's Neutron 3. You can enter the competition. In fact, if I just quickly pop that up again, we can plug it one more time. We're looking for Neutron 3 Advanced. You can win, which is we're looking for the hashtag Smarter Mixing and the hashtag Neutron 3 to @SonicState and @iZotope Inc. That's on Twitter. So thank you very much. So guys, thank you for joining us. Corey, great to have you on. You're welcome anytime. I know you're busy and it's difficult timing wise, but always welcome. So thank you. And what's next for you? What's your happening next in the big music world, music side of life?
Well, I got a couple of ModBap live streams coming up and a couple sample packs that I'm designing in conjunction with one particular modular company who I'm making a sample pack out of their oscillator. So that's going to be cool. I'll shoot you the information once it's done. But yeah,
please do.
Cool thing.
Excellent. Well, I wish you all the best, and thank you once again for joining us. Don't forget B-Boy Tech Report. You can see it there at the bottom in his URL there, I think. And also, Mr. Yoad Nevo, thank you for joining us as well. Pleasure to have you.
Always a pleasure.
I hope you could go back to wrestling Sysx with multiple Waldorfs now. I'm sure that will keep you busy for a little while longer.
Absolutely.
But brilliant. Thank you for joining us as well. And also, Mr. Dominic
Enjoy
Hawken.
Japan.
Yes, I will. Thank you. And also, Dominic Hawken, don't forget, check out Snuggle Sounds app on the iTunes Store if you have a need for sleep. I think I might do.
Even if you don't, just to get it and try it out.
Yeah, because it's free, right? Exactly.
It's free.
It's free. Okay, well, thank you very much, folks. That's it for this week. I will cut to the 4-shot and we can wave ourselves off into oblivion. That's it for this time. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.